welcome to Gun Traders Australia. So tonight we're going to do a bit of reloading. So I'm going to do some 270 Winchester. We'll get to all the grains and weights shortly, but the first step we're going to do is power up the RCBS powder measuring machine. So we're currently running a Chargemaster Lite. So it's a good machine, it's very accurate, always produces good measures. But the first thing we're going to do is power it up. It's going to sit for around 15 minutes. It has to come up to temperature, and then once it's up to temperature we'll then calibrate the machine before we actually use it. So we'll power it on. Pretty simple, push one button. Alright, so while we're waiting for these scales to come to temperature, we're going to prime some of the 270 brass. So good thing about this is all new brass, it's already fully prepped, ready to go, brand spankers. So what we need to do first is basically get back to what we're using too. So I've got a lead press, so I've used this gear for quite a number of years. Prior to this, when I was in my younger years, I started reloading at age 12, believe it or not. I had an uncle that was heavily into shooting with the SSAA, so and we used to make all of our rounds back down in Newcastle, New South Wales, and back then we had what was called a simplex 6-position turret press. People who've been reloading for a while would probably remember the old simplex gear. It was great gear, and that was my first introduction to reloading. So all that gear's gone now. So I've actually got a Lee turret, similar. It's sitting on a inline fabrication, to give it some raising on top of the bench. Inline fabrication, awesome product. So I like to be comfortable when I'm reloading, so I've set it up like this so it's raised on the bench. I don't have a lot of room here where we've currently got the setup, but this works for me. So first of all we're going to get some priming done, so while we're waiting for that to come up to speed. So this is basically, I'm only going to reload 10 lots of brass tonight. That's all I need to add to what I've already got pre-done. So primers sit into the little contraption here. We basically push that on, push the trigger. The primer, as you can see now, is already set in the coupling. So we're just going to sit our brass in like that. That's a number 2, I think it is, for the 270 Winchester. Yep, case holder. So it's as simple now. Pushing down. If you come around this side here, you'll see that the primer's sitting here. It's a large rifle primer. I think we're using CCI. No, we're actually using Winchester. So that's what we're using at the moment. Primer's still a little bit hard to get, but I've got, a supply of those at the moment, so keep us out of trouble. So nice push up, you feel it go home. That's it, brass out, primer done. This stuff's pretty easy to do. So case number 1 done. Sometimes I run two trays if I'm doing a lot of reloading, so it'll be multiple trays, so you don't want to be making mistakes. So and then before you put powder in, you always check you've got a primer in it anyway. You don't want powder all over the ground. So pretty simple. You can get up a rhythm, case in, push home. Always check they're nice and flush when you do it. There should be your primer should not be sticking out the back end of the case at all. If it is, it's not seated the way it should be. So that's perfect. Pushing home nice and firm. Once again, not protruding. Yep. Alright. That is 10 cases primed, and that's doing it very slowly. You can speed that right up once you get the hang of it. We're going to reload some 270 Winchester. So we're using ADI powder. I'm using the AR2209. We're doing that in 52 grains, and we're running a 130 grain SP interlock through Hornady. So and that's what we use for a lot of our hunting. So it's a good projectile. It's a good weight. It's plenty of power. So plenty of velocity. So So we'll drop some powder in, and we'll start measuring out some grains. That was more than plenty. It's really important with any scales that you're on a completely flat level bench. You don't have any wind or draft currents coming into the room, because that can heavily affect your scales. So, and as I said before, your scales have to come up to room temperature, and then they have to be calibrated before you use them, and you do that every time. If you don't, you're going to get false measure, and potentially you could be under or over, and if you're over, that could be catastrophic. Same as being under though, you can still then get a projectile stuck in the barrel, and then you're in a world of pain. Alright, so we need to set the scales for 52 grains, so it's just a matter of entering it in. And it's already set the grain on this one, so that's 52 grains, that's what we're putting into this load. Then we hit go, already calibrated, so it's good to go. That'll deliver 52 grains into the pan. Alright, make sure you're nice seal on top. In we go. Alrighty, there we have it. I keep a bit of a system going, and in these two you wouldn't actually be able to fit 2 lots in there anyway. But you want to make sure that you're never double loading. As soon as this goes back on the scale, it should be set to auto. Looks like it's not. So you can set it up either way. The minute you put the pan back on, it will automatically start dispensing. At the moment I've got it on manual mode. And you'll see this is just dropping out tiny bit to get it to where it needs to be until we achieve that 52 grains. We are on auto. Right. Once again, always check that's in there. I always check them before I seat the projectiles to make sure that there is an actual charge in the casing. So and now we're just rinsing and repeating. And what you can do if you haven't done this before and you're concerned about your calibrations, you can always have another set of digital scales or manual scales to ensure that you have got your digital scales calibrated correctly, and double check it, so that way you can never go wrong. If you're concerned or you're doing this, you're just getting into reloading, that'd be my suggestion. Alrighty, so we've primed the brass, we've put the powder in, so we're running 52 grains of AR2209, which is through ADI. So we're using 130 grain SP interlock through Hornady projectile. So yeah, it's got a lead tip on it, so nice and impact. So all we do now, we've already got the turret set up. So what we need to achieve with this, we need a case overall length of 3.180. To achieve that, I don't skip on things like that. I run proper digital verniers, or calipers as they're called. These are good quality, and you need that because you need your measurements precise. So you want everything to, when you chamber that that round. You want everything spot on. It's not going to be hard to close the bolt or firmness there or any issues. So it's important to get that right. These are all pre-adjusted, so because we reload all the time. So these are great though. This is a turret. So we do many calibers. So we do 6.5 Creedmoor, 223 Remington, 270, 308, and I have all the dies preloaded and everything set up for each caliper. They all come out and go in their own little box, so they're secure. They're not going to be impacted by weather or whatever. Sitting on the bed, you'll be surprised that things can degrade. So I keep everything sealed. I look after my gear. It's very important to do that. So, you know, this setup's now quite some years old, but it looks brand new. When it's not in use, it's all covered. That's the way you got to look after reloading gear. So you look after it, it'll look after you. Quite simple. Number 2 shell holder case. All we do now was basically sitting in some brass. It's got 52 grains of powder in it. We're going to grab a projectile. We're going to sit it on top. We're going to bring that up carefully. And then we're going to seat that in. Going to go down. And then we're going to check it on the calipers, make sure we've got the right depth. So we're aiming for 3180 and we've got 3180. Alright, so we know that's all set up correctly. What I do check, I'll do a couple, then I'll check another. I'm just a stick for that. I want every round identical as much as I can. Sometimes I'll go mad and I'll weigh everything. I'll weigh primers, I'll weigh the brass. You can really go down a rabbit hole with this stuff. It just depends how far you want to get into it. What I've shown you tonight is very basic. There's lots more to reloading than just this. This is new brass, but once you start reusing your brass, you've got to clean your brass, you've got to trim your brass because your casings will grow. Yeah, but we'll cover that off later on. We'll do some more videos on this and I'll show you what we do when we get really into it, especially when the wife shoots the 6.5 Creedmoor, and we'll show you some, we'll cut to some of those groupings, and even with these at 200 we'll show you the groupings we're getting out of the 270s with this load data. It's quite amazing downrange what we're achieving with it. Alright, let's finish these off. This is pretty basic, we're only doing 10, so case in. I also, another thing I forgot to say, always flash them, so I always put a torch down, make sure the powder's there. As you can see, I've already done that to all of these, but when you're doing a lot, you want to get in a routine of doing that. So get yourself set up with a routine. Have everything set out. Preparation is the key. You don't want to be basically making a whole round and there's no powder in it. So set up, get a system, and get something that works for you. And then it's quite easy. And then what I do, one tray, finished tray. And if you've got excessive pressure or anything like that, when you're doing this, then something's wrong. Like that should go nice and easy. There's a tiny bit of pressure, not much. If things are jamming up or binding up, then you haven't got things set up correctly. Alright, now it leads me to, some people always talk about crimping. Yes, sometimes I will. This brand new brass, that's not going anywhere. So I'll show you one with a crimping tool on the die. This again is all pre-configured, so pop that up in there, light push, all that's done now. Just crimped it around the top of the brass there onto the projectile. So, alright, it's that simple. There's 10 rounds, 270 Winchester, 52 grains of AR2209 smokeless powder, ADI brand. We're running Winchester primers, and then we're running 130 grain interlock Hornady in the SP, so soft point. There's your introduction to some basic reloading. As I said, very basic. This is only the start, so there's a lot more to this when you start cleaning your brass, reloading used brass, that type of thing, looking out for signs of stress on your brass, all that type of thing. So fairly simple when using new brass like that, quite quick, doing a long time, so it's relatively easy to me. I'm not saying I'm a master at it, but just gotta have the right gear, and that's what I said, don't skip on your equipment, buy the right equipment. This stuff's nothing super expensive, it just depends how far in it you want to get. Thanks for watching. Just want to give a shout out to all of our dealers and businesses that advertise with Gun Traders Australia. It's important to me to utilise Australian businesses. So if we don't have business in Australia and we don't support these businesses, they won't be here for generations. So I'm all about buying Australian, supporting Australian business. And we have a lot of good dealers and businesses on our website. So I want to give a shout out to those businesses today. You'll see on our website all these businesses listed. We're going to show you some of them shortly, and I'll give a bit of shout out to them. So if you're looking to buy any reloading gear, whether it be digital scales, presses, powder, like the AR stuff, projectiles, primers, support our dealers and our businesses, and they'll look after you.